How's all doing? First of all, I'm going to apologise for the accent. As you can tell from Northern Ireland, I've got a lovely, colourful history. The reason behind this talk today is because I've had a varied sort of employee history, John being one of my second employer. Yep, second employer. So I've worked for agencies for worked agency side 6 years, done freelance for about a year and a half, and then now I'm currently working for Expedia. I head up SEO for UK and Ireland. So as John said, we're here to talk about sort of what you can do to get your agencies working better for you. So just as a show of hands, who's client side? Ooh, quite a lot. And agencies, of course. Hands up. Okay, right. Okay, so let's get started. So whenever I came on board for Expedia, we had one agency, and we were tasked with growing it by 40% in the first year, which I achieved. But to do that, we had to do one thing: content, lots and lots of content. This is just a small sampling of what we'd done in like 2 months when we first started. Big campaigns. We worked with lots of bloggers. We done lots of agency outreach. You name it, we had to do it. So we scaled up massively. So in order to do that, we created this. Might not look like much. I'll show you that. One at the very top is me. I've got 2 project managers. I've got a community manager. I've got a content specialist, and the content specialist just sits and creates content for the actual Expedia site. Under that, we have 6 agencies, 6 account managers. We have 2 internal projects and 3 freelancers as well. So as you can see, scale. So this is one of the big things, and this is why I'm here to talk to you today, because going forward, and very quickly I noticed that to get the most from the agencies I worked with was to start treating the account managers like the biggest extension of my team. So everything was done exactly the same way as they have my freelancers in. So with the project managers, arranging things like one-to-ones, telephone calls, updates, providing them updates within the company, industry updates in terms of travel, things like that, so they had a wider knowledge of what we did and what we were trying to achieve. So from day one, we brought them all on board, tried to onboard them as quickly as possible, because without delay, we needed to grow, essentially. So I've got a few questions for you, and they're rhetorical. You don't need to answer them. They're just kind of things for you to think about. So, okay, so for the agency guys, like, have a think about, like, what type of agency are you? I mean, in terms of how you handle your clients. Are you things like, are you sort of the agency that always says yes to things? Do you push back? Is there a lot of dialogue between you and the client? Is it all one-way street? Is it you're getting a lot of push from them? Is it you're pushing them but you're not getting responses? Things like that there. So have a real think about this, because as sort of this goes on, it'll sort of generally hopefully form an opinion for you on how you can get that better relationship as well. And again, for the guys who are on the client side type of things, what type of client are you? Are you the bossy, pushy client going, I need this today? Well, actually, I needed it today, but it was like 3 weeks ago because I'm late for my presentation as I'm running down the hall. Are you taking advantage of your agency? Are you, how is that relationship formed? Because one of the things I find, and this is kind of a loose analogy, is the fact that I treat like the relationship with an agency the same way I treat a relationship with my wife, okay? Strange as it may sound, but the one big thing that always comes with like having a girlfriend or a wife, or you're married, your partner, is communication. Communication is key. You talk to your loved one every day, you share things with them. Why not do the same with your agency? You know what I mean? It goes part and parcel, because if you don't share things, they don't know what's going on. So whenever they need to make an informed decision about how to progress with the project, or anything happening internally with your work, or if there's a structural rechange, things like that there, if they don't know, then they can't help you, and you can't get the most from them. So, so with that, always think of the relationship as not an I or a me, but a we. It's always we. We need to do this. We have to do this. This is what we need, because if we can't help you and you can't help us, then there's no relationship, then you have no business as an agency, and you're going to lose that. So, and it works both ways, because then I don't like to chop and change with my agencies. I like to have the ones I work with. I've built up a lasting relationship. It's been through the people I've worked with in the past. It's been contacts I've made within going to conferences like this. And I've gained trust, and these are people I trust and I work with. So again, this is the thing about building that lasting relationship, okay? So for the guys client side, one of the big things I need to actually ask is, whenever you've got your fresh new agency, or even if it's just your current existing one, always think about, what do you need help with? Be clear from the outset, because this is where the communication comes into. So if you have to be clear about what you need, because if you start stumbling about and going, well, I think I need 30 articles and I need maybe a Facebook post, it's like, well, it's not pretty clear about what you need. Be very clear from the outset, even if it seems a bit demanding, but at least with the agency, they know exactly what has to be delivered, rather than springing surprises on them halfway through the month and going, oh, by the way, yeah, we don't need that anymore and this needs to be changed. Things like that. It doesn't bode well, it doesn't sit well. You're just going to annoy the agency, and they're not really going to be very enthralled about working with you in the future. So try and be clear, be concise, and get your point across. As I'm saying, it's a two-way street as well. So from the agency side, don't be afraid to push back. You know what I mean? Because it is a relationship. So this is the whole point. Is it's a two-way street always. So next one is, what defines success for you? So this is, again, being clear about the goals you want to achieve, the goals for your campaigns, and your outreach. So have a clear, defined set of goals. For me, like personally speaking, the way I generally work my goals is I don't get too bogged down in things like reporting, because we have analytics coming out of our ears. We have Omniture. We've got everything you need. So for me, for my agency, I don't need to know how much traffic my site's getting. I don't need to know how many sales I've made, because I have all that information. And so should you, really, to be honest, because you're the client. You know what your site's doing. You know how it's performing. So for me, it's more about how the outreach performs and not what it's driving. Once we do a piece, what can we learn from it, and what can we do next to better that next piece of outreach? So it's not just about, it delivered this much traffic. Have we targeted the right sector this time, or is there something we missed? And that's what we do, is we take the learnings from that, rather than more about traffic and sales and stuff like that, because we have all that information. This is more important. So next thing to talk about is meetings, okay? This is a dirty word. I hate this word, priorities, okay? And for good reason, because the word priorities was only actually pluralized in the 19th century, so it actually was a priority, and that's the way you should be thinking, is when you have a meeting, either internally, externally, with the agency, always think about what is the number one priority from this meeting, because there shouldn't be priorities, because then if you have that, then if everything's a priority, nothing is really a priority. So always think priority. It's like, when you come out from the meeting, what is that one takeaway that you actually need? So disregard, so you sort of go, right, this is the most important, this can be left, or vice versa. So always think about what it is you need and what you need to get from that actual meeting. So then always think about the priority, not priorities, because then nothing gets done. So be clear on your brief. This is a straight one. It's fine to be loose, but don't go, just do some SEO for me. That doesn't really work. Because it's kind of like, well, what SEO do you want? Is it technical? Is it off-page, on-page content? Do you want me to look at analytics, good webmaster tools? You name it. So be clear, but you can still be loose. So for me in general, it's like, whenever I'm talking to agencies, it's like, okay, so I've got a campaign coming up I want to target for Easter holidays. So I know around Easter time, like places like Barcelona, Tenerife, Gran Canaria, and Lanzarote are like the 4 biggest destinations. So I'm like, I need content for those 4 destinations. I don't care what type of content it is, but that's a loose brief because we try not to put my agency in a box. Because as soon as you start defining the creativity, then you start to lose momentum in what they do. So this is the one thing that I find really hard to deal with, is to try and keep those guys sort of motivated and interested in what we do, because it can, like, I've worked agency side, so I know that when you're working on one client a lot, it can become like just like really Groundhog Day in terms of churning out content and doing this and need to do that. So what we try and do is we try and keep a wide scope, because it's better for me that they're creative, because we get ideas. Ideas are really good. They facilitate what we do as a business. So if we are very stagnant, then we lose our rankings, we lose visitors. So we're not really creating much fresh content that people want to consume, either on mobile or on a blog or on the site itself. So it's then, don't sort of go, and that's the one thing I really hate, is like that old cliche of think outside the box. Don't have a box in the first place, because it's just pointless. So on that, one of the things we try and do as well is we try and put a plan together. So generally every October, November time, I'm not in the office for about 4 weeks, because I'm round visiting every single agency, and we sit down and we go through a plan. So we plan out our whole content for next year. We sit down and we go, right, from January to December, we come up with maybe 8 big outreach campaigns, plus we have supporting small pieces of content, because we know that things don't really change. So you got half term, summer holidays, Easter break. So we know those always occur on specific dates, so that they can be planned for, and then we have supporting campaigns around that as well. So it's time consuming, it really is, but the benefits are that I now know for the next 6 months, I know exactly what's coming up for me, because I've got all that planned in France. So if anyone asks me going, okay, what are we doing in terms of things for like flights to New York? I was like, well, I know I'm doing a piece around how to get cheap flights to New York because of X, Y, and Z. Or, because we know that we can get like air code flight shares and stuff like that there, which is really handy. If you go through a small hub in the US, you can get like really cheap flights. But don't quote me on that. Okay, so with all that in mind, I want to now sort of turn and look to the agency people. So the agency, what can you do to help me and help yourselves? Okay, so one thing I really like is when people become the brand superhero of their agency. I love this. It's brilliant, because they live and breathe it. They love the brand. They want to go to, they want to do travel. They love it. They love writing about it. Those are the enthusiastic people. So when you have a really good brand advocate within your agency, those are the guys that like drive it. They're the ones that are the passionate people, especially if they're interested in a client that you have. Those guys are great, because they are like on the ball with everything. They know like who the influencers are. They know all like the trade shows and networking events, things like that there. So, and this is one of the things that I had a discussion with Kevin Gibbons from another agency, and we were talking about in general how agency staff can help. And this was one of these things that came up, and I want to ask sort of a bit of a question. This is for agency people. So how many of you have been to an SEO event in the last year? Okay, not that many. I was hoping for a bit more. Okay, well, okay, client-side staff as well. SEO, anyone who's been? Okay, right. How does anyone here have a travel client at all? No? Yeah, you're Microsoft. Okay, so this is one of the issues we found, was that a lot of staff don't actually go to the industry shows. It's really surprising, and obviously the show of hands here has really confirmed that, because one of the things that I've done, and this is sort of the same with events like this, is that the networking opportunities there are amazing. You find young, hungry people willing to work, willing to do work for a big brand, and it's amazing because you can hoover them up and you have them working for you, and you've got a loyal blogger base or a brand superhero, essentially, someone who's a really big brand advocate of yours. So for example, like in the travel industry, there's like any number of events that go on. And if you're sort of kind of wondering how to justify it to your employer, I always like this because to go to one of, let me see, Travel Massive is free. You literally sign up to the Travel Massive website. If you've got a travel blog, you can go to that. The Traverse is free for bloggers. World Travel Market's free. The only ones you probably got to pay for is STS, Social Travel Summit, and TBEX. Okay? So Travel Massive, they have local chapters in pretty much most of the big cities. So they've got like London and Manchester. The one that runs the Manchester one actually works for us and writes for us. Same with the one that runs the London one as well. So things like that. Again, World Travel Market, you've got bloggers there trying to pitch to agencies and companies and tourists, council, so they're pitching there. You've got any number of these. In one day of going to one of these, you could probably nail your whole outreach for the month in one day, going to one of these events. This is how important going to industry-specific events are, because these are where all the guys hang out. These are where they talk about your brand. If you've done shit, if you've done anything like that there, if you've annoyed them, they all talk. So if you can be there and you're a presence and you're like, because I used to do the outreach. I remember having to send cold emails to people going, oh yeah, we've got this really amazing product. We've all done it. Like anyone who's worked in an agency has had to try and email to get in touch with a blogger or someone or a brand advocate. And you know how hard that is to send. But if you go to one of those events, you're pretty much, you can go around there and you probably pick up 60 cards in an hour, maybe more. And within the whole day, you maybe have 200 contacts. It kind of makes sense, you know what I mean? So for the price of maybe one day's agency value, so I don't know what agency rates are like here for any of you guys, but for something like TBEX, I think it's like $500. So even with its dollars, so you convert it down, it's still about 350 quid. If you're out of the office for one day and that justifies that spend, you could probably make that back in the amount of contacts that you would actually have to spend that day in the office and more. So you've probably pretty much done your whole outreach for the year going to one event. So this is why it's like these are important, these events, and this is why you should be, for you as an agency, you should be looking at what industry trade shows, because these are where these guys hang out, and they're always looking for work. You know, there's loads of freelancers. They will snap your arm off at a distance for work anytime. So, okay. So one of the things I like, and this is why we use so many agencies, is because I like to see I like ideas. I never really discount much when I bring my ideas, okay? It's kind of like, it's an open forum, so regardless of how ridiculous it is or whatever, I like to hear it because I'd rather someone come to me with 18 to 20 ideas than come with 3 or 4 and reject all 3 and 4, but come out with 2 really good ones out of 18, because it means then that they've got to go back, well, sorry, you guys have got to go back, sit down, come up with more ideas, have another meeting, come up with another 3 or 4 ideas, and then I might not like those 3 or 4 ideas, whereas if you come with the big bunch all at once, you know, there's lots there to choose from. There's some that might work, but maybe not work at that precise time. So you can put them on the back burner, and then you know for the future you're going, okay, so we created this one back in like January. It wasn't suitable, but now it's actually suitable for a campaign that the brand team might be running in August or something, which has actually happened to us. We were going to do something around stag and hen dos, but at the time we were like, ooh, PR might not go for it, but now they're actually, the PR and social team are now doing a piece on stag and hen dos and how people are now traveling. So we've actually got something that we rejected at the start of the year, now ready for a piece of content that's ready to go live. So, and again, so don't be scared to embrace new ideas, and also don't forget to experiment as well, because you never know what you might like. But, but don't forget, I mean, at the end of the day, the whole point of this is that it's all about being open, being honest, it's communication. And sometimes we do get a bit into trouble with each other, especially when money's involved and things like that there. It gets a bit naughty and angry. So as I'm saying, never forget to talk to each other. This is the best thing you can do, because you try and share as much information as possible, because if you don't share, then both of you are going to fail miserably and you're not going to achieve the goals. Because I will generally sit down and I will show the agencies I work with my numbers for the year and say, right, this is what we're doing for the year, and I need you to help me get this number in terms of transactions or sales or whatever, traffic for the site. If I don't show them that, then they've got no concept of what they're actually working towards, because they're just flying blind. So for them, they know exactly that if they're doing a piece of outreach, they want to get the highest quality, because then it drives the rankings higher, it gets more sales through, things like that there. So yeah, keep open communication lines, because I said you don't want to get into trouble, because at the end of the day, we're all friends. So, and we're all trying to keep a nice relationship with each other. So I just want to say thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, fire away.